Micromax will be out very shortly. Starting on pole will be the 66 of Riley Buckton-Young. He's alongside Logan Lauder with Toby Jukes and James Tate on row 2. Caden Simpson and Alex Jones on row 3. In row 4, we'll see Aston Brown alongside Harry Neeson with Jack Hutchinson completing the 9 runners in our Micromax class. They are our youngest runners in terms of the cadet ranks. Certainly taking on the 2-stroke action then in this Micromax class, a class that's possibly one of the youngest in UK karting, but is an entry level into the Rotax family. They then get to move up into minis, then to juniors, then to seniors for the Rotax classes. So it's a steady transition all the way through the Rotax family. It will, of course, be a rolling start, and with Riley Buckton-Young due to be on pole position, who's currently the 5th driver making his way round, we'll see whether he can either retake that position early or whether we're going to have a roll round and see whether we can... I think this is going to be very, very unlikely we're going to get this one going at the first time of asking, given that the driver that we had noted as in pole position is not in pole position. But we'll see how we go when we come through. We'll see what we can do, and we are, of course, rolling round and having another go. Logan Lauder, I think they're on the outside, just giving the roll round. As certainly down this end of the circuit, looks like the sun is out, but we are receiving reports that there is rain down the paddock end of the circuit. So down at the where the drivers join the circuit in the off the dummy grid, we're hearing reports down there from our sources in the paddock that there is some slight precipitation. Just have a quick look out the window and see whether any of these runners are out on wets or whether they're all on slicks. Looks like the bulk of them are on slicks, and certainly if there is some rain down there, we'll be able to see if 1 or 2 of them. And we are just having a quick look now, because once again, Riley Buckton-Young, who we were expecting to see on pole position on our grid, isn't there. He's down in 7th, I think, on the inside. Most of them actually inside. Micromax are actually are now struggling to get themselves into the correct position. Everybody on one side, and they need to split that off because our runners are not quite where they should be, I don't think. But we'll see how we go this time, see whether we can get them going at this time of asking. Looks like a few more of them have moved into their outside berths instead. We may well get this one going at the first time, the second time of asking, but we'll keep an eye out on the lights, see whether the flag goes up. We're away and racing this time then in Micromax. And we are heading then down towards the first corner. It's going to be a fast, hard braking zone. Let's see if everybody makes it round that first corner. Looks like nobody tries to go too aggressive, although Toby Jukes dives to the inside, but then runs wide on exit and heads down now towards the second chicane. They're still side by side. Logan Lauder leaves the door open, and through comes the 20 of James Tate. Through then into lead. Aston Brown gets alongside as well, and he moves up into second place. Logan Lauder, who led round that first corner, starting to drop away as the 47, dives down the inside. Harry Neeson, but runs wide on exit. But we've seen in previous races that doesn't hamper you too much, because you go wide and then it slots you back in and you're in the prime position for the next complex of corners. As now Aston Brown all over the back of James Tate. They're side by side. Brown has more straight line speed, moves through on James Tate, who looked like he had the final corner of the track compromised. And now moves through Aston Brown with the tap of the helmet, but if he looks over his shoulder, he's already moving away at the head of the pack as Toby Jukes takes advantage of the door being left open, as does Caden Simpson down the inside of Alex Jones into turn number 1. We've got a yellow flag out down there at turn 1. Looks like Jack Hutchinson in the 31 is off in the outside. You saw the yellow flag just pop into screen there. There he is on the outside of the chicane. Marshall working hard to get him back on track, so it's clear when they come round. The yellow flag is in, and overtaking opportunities into that first corner are now back on the table for our Micromax runners. Lauder has lost that place then to Jukes on the for third place down that end of the circuit. We saw him take the position early on in the lap, and now Caden Simpson gets a good run round that final corner, but then will he scrub off enough speed round that corner to then open the back door up for Lauder to come back to the inside? He doesn't, but Caden Simpson is charging, and even with that overtake on the previous lap, is 1.4 seconds quicker than Jukes. It looks like he's at Jukes on wets as well in the early part of this. And now Caden Simpson on the slicks is starting to come through. and he's starting to close in, certainly on Dukes at a fair rate of knots, and he's pulling away already. Let's see whether he can do anything to catch up on the front runners. Aston Brown, though, absolutely flying. A 52.9. He's 3 seconds quicker than everybody else on that previous lap, and he's 3.8 away with still well over half of the race still to go. And he's through over start finish already as we see this battle for second, third, fourth, fifth and sixth, all still nose to tail as they're through. James Tate is in the middle of that, but he's being reeled in now by Toby Dukes by Caden Simpson, who's got past Toby Dukes for third place. And on that previous lap, 1.6 seconds quicker was Caden Simpson, closing in on the second place of James Tate as Riley Buckton-Young goes to the inside of the 30 of Alex Jones into the turn one hairpin and moves away and through. Good overtake there by Riley Buckton-Young, hard on the brakes as Toby Dukes now is falling back into the clutch. As you can see there, those tyres noticeable in their tread that they've gone for the wet option on this continuously drying circuit. And Caden Simpson is now right on the back of James Tate for second place. And we've seen him previously get a good run out of this corner and try and get alongside into the final corner. He's done it again. Caden Simpson with a sensational overtake on James Tate. And he's done it before, and I'm fairly sure he's now going to do it again throughout the rest of this race day. He knows he can make that overtake, gets a good run out of the complex and into the final corner. Not for the first time in this race, Caden Simpson with a fantastic overtake down into that final complex of corners. We're only at half race distance as well. The gap, though, to Aston Brown out at the front, who is continuously plugging in 52s. A sensational pace for Aston Brown. 3 seconds quicker than anybody else out there on the circuit in these micro maxes. And I'm fairly sure, even though Caden Simpson has made a fantastic move so far all the way through the pack, he's going to struggle to close in. As once again, you see on the top of the screen there in the left-hand corner, Aston Brown with a pink sector of purple. A 52.1 shows him showing the fastest lap of the race. As Riley Buckton-Young and Toby Dukes battle it out. And Toby Dukes, who started the race with good pace, is now unfortunately falling back into the clutches of the slick runners as he goes around this Fulbeck circuit, which you can see now with the sun shining is very, very dry. And the one thing that you don't want to be is on wets, because those tyres are not going to do you any favours. And they definitely look like they've got tread on them, and you can tell actually with the way he's going around the corners. Riley Buckton-Young just getting so much more exit grip as our race leader Aston Brown is now starting to come through some more of the lap traffic as the lap times are around about 52 seconds for our leaders. Caden Simpson is closing in terms of his lap time, bringing them down now into the 54s, but Aston Brown is still moving away at a rate of around 2 seconds per lap. Getting still some comments coming. Dean Dukes is watching his son Toby there on screen. There he is. He's watching us from Wilton Mill. He's currently holding off Riley Buckton-Young, even though Buckton-Young is on the slicks and should have a little bit more pace than Toby Dukes. Dukes is holding firm, and at the moment Buckton-Young just can't get close enough to actually make an overtake move, and he's potentially carrying a little bit too much speed into them corners rather than thinking of maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 corners further down the line as to which is in terms of lining up an opportunity. He's just trying to close right in up on the back. There's Aston Brown coming through, the race leader, another fastest lap of the race, 51.767. I'm sure he's enjoying himself, but when you've got almost a 20-second lead and you're continuously plugging in fastest laps of the race, the person that won't be enjoying that will be his mum, dad, mechanic, or anybody else that's watching, because one thing you don't want is them just keep putting in fastest laps, and doing a Senna at Monaco and putting it in the barrier and throwing away a certain victory. As now Buckton-Young is much closer to Toby Dukes than he has been, but then scrubs off all the speed that he was carrying through that complex of corners. There's some lap traffic in front. I think that's Jack Hutchinson as they come up to the chicane section. So it's Dukes in fourth with Buckton-Young and then Neeson, I think, in the background, and as the lap traffic is staying out of the way. Nice clean overtakes then by our two runners in fourth and fifth respectively. So the 9 runners in their position. It's Brown, Simpson, Tate, Dukes, Buckton-Young, Neeson, Lauder, Jones and Hutchinson, But this one is really down to Aston Brown putting a marker down, not only for this race, not only for this meeting, but for the entirety of the 2022 season as the driver to beat in this Micro Max class. Continuously growing, of course, Micro Max, as Riley Buckton-Young finds his way past Toby Jukes, finally for 4th place as he moves his way through. 23 seconds remaining then for our race leader to come through before the time elapses, and he may well do that actually and have another lap to complete. He's got 20 seconds gap on the rest of them. I'm fairly sure he's not going to slow down just so he doesn't get another lap, but he certainly could have done with the gap at 20 seconds and him only needing 8 seconds to come over the line. So it has elapsed, and now he's got just under 2 laps remaining then, has Aston Brown. In that 57 machine, already put a lap on Alex Jones and Jack Hutchinson, closing in on Logan Lauder and Harry Neeson in front of him. And now he's just got to make sure these overtakes are clean. As Riley Buckton-Young, he's got through, but he hasn't managed to pull away from Toby Jukes, and Jukes has stayed with him in this race. And certainly it looked like Buckton-Young had more pace to come through and then start to move away. But now he's through, hasn't managed to break away from Toby Jukes. The last lap board is out. There is Aston Brown coming through. The lead, a commanding one at well over 20 seconds. It could be 23, 24 when he comes through next time. Caden Simpson in 2nd place has drove amazingly to sort of stem the gap. It was 15 seconds when he moved up into 2nd place. There he is in the 77 with the infamous Red Bull suit on, the blue and yellow helmet. The gap is only out to 21, so he has started to close in terms of like bringing the time band down between Aston Brown and Caden Simpson. But Aston Brown in that early part of the race where he built up a 15-second lead in the first half of the race has had it comfortable, but it's continued throughout the race to keep plugging in fastest lap after fastest lap. It's been a commanding race for Aston Brown. The checkered flag seen by the 57, a fantastic win for him. Both arms off the steering wheel in elation